My name is Julie Warren. I'm the Direct Sales and Marketing Director of a company called Growth Street that I'm sure nobody will have heard of, but I'll explain a little bit more. But the title of this session is Financing for the Future, What Lies Ahead for SMEs. I'll just wait for these people to sit down here. We'll watch the ones sitting in the back row. They're always the troublemakers, so I'll have my eye on you for questions at the end. Okay, so I can say this quite comfortably because I think there might be one or two in the audience that are a little bit older than me, but you know, everything has changed within the financing world. I started working for Barclays in 1983, and you know, things were very, very different then as they are than they are today. And I think what we want to look at here is what's actually changed, and you know, more importantly, how you can use the changes to benefit yourself and your business. So I've had a wonderful career, all in corporate finance. First of all, working for Barclays for nearly 30 years, then working for Aldermore, one of the challenger banks, a brief period as a broker, and most recently working for fintech businesses, which I'll explain a bit more about in London. But you know, everything has changed so much. If I go back to when I started working for Barclays in 1983, you knew who your bank manager was, you had a relationship with him, he was interested in what you were doing now and where you wanted to go in the future. And it was fairly easy to get finance, to be honest with you. If you had a good business and you know, a strong product or service, it was fairly easy to get your bank manager on board. You know, if you look at where we are today, everything has changed so much. If you actually know the name of your bank manager, then you're very, very lucky. If you can actually get hold of your bank manager, you're even luckier. But the reality is, when you pick up the phone to your bank manager and you ask for help, the answer is probably to be turned away. So I had a lovely story with one of my businesses a couple of years ago with NatWest. And I'd been really, really busy for a few years. And I rang up my bank manager at NatWest to be told that I wasn't allowed to ask for him anymore. I was apparently part of a centralised hub and I had to take whoever I got to, even though I knew he was there. But when I eventually got to speak to somebody and explained I wanted an overdraft on my business account, I was told that really wasn't going to be possible because you know, that my account wasn't looking quite so healthy and the turnover wasn't very good. But if I'd have asked for it 12 months earlier, when I didn't need it, I would have probably got it. So I clarified with him, so what you're saying is, if I'd have asked for an overdraft when I didn't need it, I would have got it, but now that I need it, I can't have it. Yes. And I think that summarises probably, you know, where we are today. There was a great article very recently, within the last couple of weeks, from Ross McEwen, the chief exec of RBS, where in a rather arrogant manner, in my opinion, he said that the small lenders in the UK would struggle as the big banks such as RBS picked up speed after a decade of hefty restructuring and cost-cutting following the financial crisis. So if you believe Mr. McEwen, you know, everything is going to change and the banks are going to spring back into action. I don't know. I disagree with that, to be honest with you. I think he's missing the point. It wasn't the banks and the lack of funding that they've had over the last 10 years that have caused the problem. It's a lack of focus on the customer. It's a lack of focus on what the customers are looking for. It's an inflexibility in the product set that they offer. Has anybody in the room ever had invoice finance or looked into invoice finance? I mean, it is one of the craziest products. I've spent a lot of my life working in and around invoice finance, but the costs are based on your turnover for the service charge part of the element, with no correlation to how much you actually borrow. So, you know, you may be turning over, you know, 100,000 a month, and that's what you'll be charged against. you may only be borrowing 10,000 a month or nothing. I think the whole market needed a big shake-up and has had a very big shake-up as well. So, what's happened over there, just quickly to go back on what's happened in the past, do the banks want to lend anymore? They say they do. They say that they turn down very few applications. I would argue that they turn most customers down at the point they come into the bank, and actually they don't actually get through to a full application form. Facilities are getting smaller. We know that in the UK, overdrafts are shrinking. The gap between businesses growing and overdrafts that are being offered from the bank is bigger than it's ever been, and getting bigger all the time. Less experienced professionals, if I go back to my day of joining Barclays in 1983, you had to take your banking qualifications. You weren't allowed to sit on the till until you'd been in the back office for at least 12 months. These days, I believe that you can work in Victoria Wine 1 month and be sat on the till of a bank in the next month. There's not a huge amount of expertise. Most of these people have never actually gone and visited a business, let alone run their own business. So I think the level of empathy and understanding of businesses is very, very different. Also, the banks have got a massive, massive problem. They've got really, really historic IT platforms that are not made for the future. They really struggle trying to link their technologies in with some of the stuff that is available today. So I remember 15 years ago asking one of the project managers in Barclays if we could link up with cloud accounting such as Xero or QuickBooks, and I think he nearly had a heart attack trying to think how he was going to plug that into an already crumbling banking platform. So they're not in a good place to be able to link with modern technologies. Okay, so what do SMEs want today? I mean, you're all SMEs, so tell me if you think there's other stuff. But I think, what you really want is a relationship, somebody that understands you, products that are built around what you're looking for rather than what suits the bank. So if you look at the products that the banks offer these days, most of them are products that suit them, such as invoice finance or asset finance, but they don't necessarily suit the average small business who wants flexibility and speed. And I think, you really want access to the right amount of capital when you want it. So you don't want really big, chunky, fixed-term loans that you're paying for when you can't use them. You only want to pay for the money when you need it. And you don't want contracts that are for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. You want flexibility to be able to dip in and out of funding as and when it suits you. I guess as somebody said to me the other day, I'd love the ability to become my own bank manager. I want to decide when I want to borrow, when I don't. And I don't want to be beholden on a bank manager anymore. Smart funding using technology. If somebody had said 5 years ago and you were talking about Xero and cloud accounting, it was probably in the fairly early stages. These days, we've got so much really clever technology. This year saw the intervention of open banking, where lenders can actually pick up your bank statements direct through a portal. So, the days of actually having to provide management accounts, trading accounts, bank statements is actually gone, but most people don't realise it, and it's very difficult to work out, who the best lenders are to go to. So I think, things are changing dramatically. We obviously had the financial crash of 10 years ago with a whole load of regulatory intervention that has come in since then. I actually went to something called the Banking Remedies meeting a few weeks ago, where they were looking at how they're going to deploy the RBS money that has been taken back and get it out to businesses. And it's, the regulators are getting very tough on the banks now. If they're not lending, they are taking interventions, and there's been quite a few of different initiatives that have come about to try and get the money back out to businesses. Is it really making a difference? I think probably not at this moment in time, but it's probably better than nothing, which is what we had before. So what is the future of financing? I guess this is what you came to hear. I've called it hybrid finance. This is what a lot of new lenders are striving to do. It's certainly what my company, Growth Street, do. So we're looking to use the best of old-fashioned banking by way of a strong relationship, a flexible facility. So somebody said to me the other day, if I'd have gone to my bank 20 years ago and asked for a 50 or £100,000 overdraft, I would have probably been given that facility. These days, I'm probably told I can have a £2,000 overdraft and a myriad of other products, or I'm told to go off and go onto the internet and find somebody else that might be able to help me with a product that I don't understand. But hybrid finance does exist, using the best of old-fashioned finance and then using very, very smart technology in terms of linking in with your cloud accounting, so that you don't have to keep providing the lender with up-to-date information, so that they can link in direct to view your bank statements without you having to provide them. So there's a lot of really, really good technology out there that can make your life easier. And with that comes a huge benefit, both in terms of the cost of the finance that you've got, the flexibility. It is absolutely possible to have flexible facilities in today's world where there are no sign-up fees, there's no contracts, there's no annual renewal fees. All of the things that we've been led to believe, from our banks primarily, that go with the package of having finance. So I think, I would say to everybody, do some research. There's a lot of really good companies coming on board. There's a lot of really good products that you maybe wouldn't be obvious to you, particularly if you just looked online. The unfortunate thing about Google is often it's the companies that have got the biggest marketing budgets that appear in the Google searches. But there's a lot of really good new companies coming on board. In terms of the pricing, which I guess is key to SMEs, it's often not that different from what you actually get from your bank. I'm not talking about APRs of 60, 70, 80% here. I'm talking about really flexible funding, which is offered on much more agreeable terms than maybe you think is possible. So there's an awful lot of opportunities out there if you look. And I think that we still see the figures coming through all the time of how many people go to their bank first and maybe last to ask for finance. Don't assume if your bank manager or the person from a call centre says no, it actually means no. It probably just means no, it's not right for them, or maybe they can't be bothered, or they haven't got time, or they don't understand or want to understand what you're actually doing. But there are so many other opportunities out there to find the right kind of funding. If you take credit card payments, there's companies that will do loans against credit cards. There's people that will do automated financing against your invoices, that you put them through a system. And a lot of these come with significant benefits of other products that you can link into as well. So some of these come with invoice chasing tools. Within Growth Street, we're about to launch a free cash flow calculator, which gives a 90-day indication of where your cash flow is going. There's an awful lot of benefits here. So finance is changing, and I think, I would say to Mr. McEwen, I think don't dismiss the challenges, because I think we're here to stay. And the reason we're here to stay is because business owners like yourself are demanding a better service. They're demanding more flexibility, and they're demanding to have more control. And actually, there are lenders out there that are absolutely committed to providing those things. It's just looking in the right place and finding the right lender that actually suits you. And most important to us is understanding who you are, understanding what you want, understanding how we can help you both now and in the future. So I'd love to speak to anybody that would like to come over. Has anybody got any questions that they want to ask? Okay, thank you very much for coming over. Do come and see us, but be challenging, be demanding. There are options out there for you. It's just searching them out. And I'd love to have a chat with anybody at the end if you want to come over.